Well, we are here at the WordCamp Europe in Belgrade, the second day, and my special guest for today is Noel Tock.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you to be here. Noel Tock describes himself as a Swiss digital nomad who loves creating projects online, so I know that by heart. Can you describe yourself a little bit more and tell us how your work is connected to WordPress?
Yeah, by all means. I guess the long story is that I've always been creating things on computers, all the way back to the HyperCard days on Apples and all that. And at some point in 1995, I got introduced to HTML and CSS. It was always a hobby, there wasn't really a real web design job at the time. So I just kept it on the side. Had lots of side projects where communities and game stuff, game modifications, game art. And just having a lot of fun online. And I wasn't really learning or growing in the financial sector where I was working previously. So I didn't really feel the connection there. So at one point, probably around like 2008, 2009, I made the big switch and said, I'm just going to do this. And I got into web design, started selling themes. So themes were my big connection to WordPress at the beginning. And so I sold themes to restaurants, and that worked out really well. And I guess I got the taste of blood there, and I kept going, you know.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What do you think, what are the main challenges that freelance WordPress developers and agencies have to face in the next years?
I think, and so in my talk, I mentioned the difference between solutions and tools quite a lot. I think that WordPress is taking a bit of a tool kind of identity in that regard, because it's one piece of a larger puzzle today. Maybe 10 years ago you just had a WordPress site and you had all the plugins in there, but maybe now you have MailChimp, you have HubSpot, you have Google Analytics, you have some A/B testing tools, and you have tons of other things. If you look in your own 1Password account, you'll probably see so many SaaS applications. It's just all there. So the challenge is, what is your role? Are you a product manager? Are you a marketing consultant? Are you a developer? Because we were all three when we were starting to create WordPress sites back then. But now there's a lot of specialization, so you have to choose what you are. There's a lot of, I guess, challenges for smaller agencies who are used to getting business a certain way, and now they're feeling the price pressure or the pressure around what value they offer, and they're not sure what the issue is potentially.
And what advice would you give to a new WordPress developer so that they can make sure that their skills stay relevant for the future?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think being a good developer is a lot more than being good at programming. And surely with WordPress you also have, there's a WordPress way of doing things. I'm not a developer anymore, but I'd say that there's so much to be said for being someone who can work in a team, someone who can take feedback, give feedback, who can learn or at least appreciate new tools, and because the web's constantly changing, right? Maybe we were arguing about WordPress and Drupal a couple of years ago, and now we're arguing about React versus Vue, and who knows what we'll be arguing about tomorrow. So it's staying on top of things. It's learning good architecture. It's learning how your code relates to the business value, and what is the benefit of your code. But above all, I guess it's pragmatism.
And my next question is about the WordPress community. And you also said in your talks, okay, WordPress is not just WordPress. WordPress is not just WordPress, it's WordPress.org, it's the whole platform, it's the collaboration. What do you think, how can contributing to the WordPress community help a WordPress developer, and what's the best way to get that started?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think if you're trying to contribute to raise your profile, there's probably better things you can do. You can just be more commercial and do lots of outbound sales and those kind of things. If you genuinely enjoy open source, and it is a fantastic community in that regard, then there's plenty of entry points to get involved. So if you're not so confident with code and you'd like to be able to get your feet wet, then maybe you try to become part of the theme review team. If you're really very experienced, maybe you try to dive into core. Maybe you have a specialization or something you really like media handling and images. But there's definitely lots of different entry points, and the community is very open to accepting new people, new thoughts, and new opinions.
And do you think WordPress is the best solution, and if so, why?
It's the best solution if you're able to deliver. I mean, it's a tool, like I said before, so you have to make it the best solution by being a great vendor of it, or a great consultant, or a great implementer, by knowing what its strengths are and what it plays well with, and how you can use that to the best of your advantage against competing products. So it comes down to you and your knowledge, not only as a, let's say, a developer, but then also as a product manager or a business person.
There's a lot of competition around WordPress, and how can a WordPress developer or WordPress agency convince their clients that this is really the best solution?
It depends. If we're really talking about like small business, it's becoming a very hard proposition, because, like you say, there's a lot of website builders which are cheap and they get you in, and the tools and the features you get are accessible to non-technical users. That's a very powerful argument. My work is on the other end of the spectrum, where WordPress is the cheap solution because it's free, compared to things like Adobe Experience Manager or Sitecore, which come with license fees. So I have an advantage in that regard, but I think there's probably some room to still do small business websites, but otherwise people will have to start growing to a more mid-sized business where the cookie cutter sort of approach of very limited designs, very limited features and all that just don't cut it anymore. But most small businesses, especially all businesses around here, don't need more than that. So that's the tough proposition, I think. And how do you get past that?
And one big topic was also the whole time, or is already the whole time, is Gutenberg.
Yeah.
So, and there are a lot of different views about Gutenberg. So many people say it's revolutionary, other people are more hesitating. So what's your view, and how do you think Gutenberg will change WordPress?
It's definitely revolutionary. I think there's no doubt about that. Obviously in my talk, my big focus was around content. I think that's WordPress's place and sort of superpower, if you want, compared to other things. If you want to compare against companies that are dominant in analytics, they're dominant in email marketing, they're dominant in other kind of solutions that businesses need. But the content and the publishing is something that WordPress just dominates in, and being able to express that and make content available in very different manners is incredibly powerful. But it does require a vision, right? It does also cost a certain amount of a shift in that regard for people to be able to see the difference between a theoretical idea now and believe in something much larger. So I was just talking to someone from the Gutenberg team, and as the demos have been coming out, there's been a lot more buy-in. So there definitely has been a lot of marketing around it. But sure, one could wish that there was a bit more optimism and benefit of the doubt, I think, because it is a bold idea, but I believe it needs to be done. We're already working on 3 projects with Gutenberg, large scale. One's almost shipped, and that's already 50,000 posts, going to whatever post count Matt was looking for, 250,000 or whatever, so we're happy to contribute there. But yeah, we're all in. We believe in it.
So, and you also talk a lot about digital experience platforms. Could you please explain what digital experience platforms are and what that means for us?
Yeah. So the optimist will tell you that a digital experience platform, or DXP, is this bundled software that executes your entire digital strategy and is able to deliver all your content to different devices, different mediums, and do so in a personalized manner. Regardless if it's web-centric or IoT or whatever, it's just the fully integrated approach. That's the optimist. The pessimist will tell you right now the concept lives as a marketing idea, which is basically CMS plus very light personalization, because it is incredibly hard to do personalization at scale for a completely new business. You can't just jump in there and say, well, here's everything we need to do, or here's how you can increase conversion by 50%. It just doesn't work that way. Sure, Walmart, Target, like those are big retailers who have been doing that in a consumer experience kind of way, or customer experience method, so that's the offline equivalent, I guess. Or you look at like payment providers like Klarna in Scandinavia that are aggregating massive amounts of data on buying habits and behavior, which is very, very powerful. But to apply that entire concept to medium-sized businesses in a plug-and-play fashion is very challenging, I think.
And one more question for you about remote collaboration, because remote collaboration is well established in the WordPress community.
Yes, it is.
What are agencies or freelancers missing out if they haven't yet embraced remote collaboration?
Remote is a challenging thing. I think, so personally, I like working in an office with people because there's a lot of benefits, especially when it comes around to junior staff. It's very hard to take someone out of university and put them in a remote position, because it creates a lot of anxiety. They don't know what the baseline is for working and how people interact. So whenever there's no communication, you're always you're a hell of a party there. But when there's no communication, someone who's quite young and junior doesn't quite understand if no one's talking to them or if they're not doing something correct. So that's quite challenging. But on the other hand, there is the idea of hashtag freedom and all that kind of stuff, where you can live and do the things you want. And obviously at Human Made, for us, remote has been massively beneficial because we've been able to hire the right kind of people anywhere in the world. So that's what we've done, because we tend to hire from WordPress anyway, from the community, from WordCamps. So being able to be in any country and meet someone that seems extraordinary and talk to them and then bring them into Human Made has created a lot of the diversity we have.
That's all from my side.
Great.
Thanks a lot.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.